Hello fellow internet knitters, this is my first project vlog, and the project for this vlog will be Ingrid Sweater men's edition. The plan is to make a sweater that both my husband and I can share. For me it'll be very oversized, good with leggings, and for him it'll be like pretty classic fit. He tends to prefer things a little cropped, so I'm trying to recreate this sweatshirt. So hopefully I'll be able to recreate this sizing. My plan is to use Holst Garn Supersoft held double. The name Supersoft may be a little bit of a misnomer. It's super soft for 100% wool. Once you block it, it blooms like crazy and it gets much softer, and it gets softer each time you block it. I think the primary reason for that is that because it's an economical yarn, you can buy it in cones, and it still has some of the spinning oil on it, so it's not necessarily in its final form when you get it, but once you block it and start to use it, it becomes so nice, and I really like it, and I would recommend it. So the color I'm using is silver gray. Here I have a cone, and I've already caked up. I caked it up because I will be holding it double, so this is the easiest way for me to do that. And I do think I will be able to get a whole sweater out of this, just based on other sweaters I've made in the past. Like for example, one cone I did 2 pairs of socks held double and one oversized but cropped sweater held double, and I was able to get all of that out of one cone of yarn. Oh, and also a vest. I also got a vest held single out of that, so I'm not really too worried about getting a sweater out of all this. So I will update you as I go along with my project, and we'll see how it goes. What I did was I placed it out flat, and I measured the flat like across the chest, and then I doubled that to get the circumference. 49 inches for the chest circumference. That doesn't quite match up with the pattern dimensions. The medium is a 47.25 inches, where the large is 50.5 inches. So I did a gauge swatch, which I always do, and I blocked it. So what I actually got after blocking, I got gauge spot on. Before blocking, I was about 2 stitches and 2 rows short, but after blocking, it's perfect. And I think the stitch definition looks great because Supersoft is a little bit of a rustic yarn. I think we have some great kind of fuzziness and halo-y, but pretty subtle. Again, this is going to be for my husband as well. He doesn't necessarily like mohair and things. So I think it'll be perfect. I looked up other people's gauge swatches in Ravelry. I looked at some pictures because I want a little guidance on what other people chose to do for their gauge swatch. I pulled up the chart for body, and I followed that somewhat. I started with the 2x2 rib, and then I think this is where I started the chart. This is the 2 purl rows, and then started with the charted cabling. This is actually way easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought this part was going to be a pain for me because I tend to get overwhelmed with cables or anything that's super charted. Cables can be hard for me to read, but it was way easier than I thought. So I think this pattern is actually going to come up really fast, and I'm so excited to start it. But I did that, and then I did the other purl ridge. I skipped a little bit of knitting here, which would have just been knitting straight, and then I went straight into the moss stitch. I also wanted to see how much the double knit was, or the rib, 2x2 rib was going to like shrink in, because I had noticed that on some people's projects where the rib section is kind of shrunk in, and I did not love that look. I'm not seeing that on my swatch, and I'm sure some aggressive blocking would be able to resolve any issues like that. I wonder if the projects I had seen maybe hadn't been blocked, because it was kind of cinching a little bit before I blocked it, but it's perfect now. So because I'm directly on gauge, I am going to go with the size large. 50.5 is closer to my desired chest circumference of 49 inches, then 47.25 inches for the medium. I think the large should work out pretty well. So I only had to do one gauge swatch. I'm so lucky, and I'm ready to cast on my project, and we'll see how it goes. It's time for an update. It has been 13 days since I cast on, and I don't have much work to show for it. It's been a busy 13 days, so, and there have been, shocking I know, there have been some days where I have not been knitting, which is a crime, honestly. You should knit every day because it makes you happy. But yeah, sometimes we just don't. So here's my progress. I'm currently on the the front yoke, and that means I finished my back yoke piece. It's kind of a mess right now, of course. So this is the back yoke, and then I picked up for the shoulders, rounded shape for the neck, and now I'm on the yoke for the center. So I'm starting these cables in the front. It's looking pretty good. I put it up against the piece that I'm trying to recreate, and it matched pretty well. So I was happy about that. So I think the sizing is looking good so far. I mean, it's just such a mess right now. It's hard to tell, but this is my progress after a lazy 13 days of knitting. You can go much faster. I'm sure this is some people's one day of knitting, but for me, it has been 13 days. And I like the way it looks. Everything is going well. The charts have been easy to follow, and this pattern has been very easy and pleasant to do. I am not a big cable fan. I find them kind of tiring, but these ones, no sweat, haven't been a problem. 13 days. Let's go a little faster so we can finish this before it starts getting cold. I've done a lot since I last filmed. All right, it looks so goofy right now because it hasn't been blocked, but we are on day 20 and I've made a lot of progress since I last filmed. Really hoping this rib section isn't gonna suck in like that, but we'll see when I block it for real. But I am not connected to any yarn right now. I'm gonna do the collar before I continue. I am almost done with the body. I just have another section of ribbing, like this ribbing, and then like the rib on the end before I'm finished. But I want to get the collar in so that my husband can try it on and see if he's liking where the length's going. I'm also going to block it before I get like a final, I call them sweater consultations, when we try it on before the thing's done. It's pretty short right now. Like here's my belly button. So it's quite short. I do know that it will grow with blocking, but I want it to be quite oversized, so I might even end up adding some extra length to it, but we'll have to see after the collar's in and we get it blocked. This is so hot, I'm gonna take it off. I think it's looking really cool. I really love this double panel of diamonds. I think they look really awesome. I haven't found any huge mistakes yet, which is there's definitely one in here, but I don't see it yet. I don't see it. But I have been really enjoying knitting this pattern. I knew I wanted to knit it for a long time, but I definitely put it off because I thought it was complicated, because it looks like a pretty complicated sweater with all these different design elements, but each one you definitely get into a rhythm. None of them are particularly complicated. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's going. It's huge, but it hasn't felt super slow because each section feels like its own little, like something to complete, like a little task. So when you complete it, you feel like you've really accomplished something, and then you have that little bit of motivation to do the next little section. So I think the way it's like chunked out in sections really makes it a potato chippy knit, where you just kind of, you keep the motivation high and you don't really want to stop knitting it. Definitely loving the pattern so far. All right, hi, it's day 30. Things are going well. I have finished the main body with the ribbing, and the length is perfect. It's matching up almost perfectly to the sweatshirt that I'm trying to match size. So that is going very well. Of course, now we have 2 long sleeves to finish, but my main concern is running out of yarn at this point. So this is what's left of my cone, which once it gets to this point, it's kind of like a black box to me if I have enough or not. It's hard for me to really tell. And I don't really have a way to like weigh my yarn right now. So all I have left is the remnants of this, which was one of these. So I have this cone, then whatever's left of this, and one more. And again, I'm holding double, so I really don't know if I'm gonna make it, which could complicate things. It might be hard to get more. Color match, of course, is a concern. Not a huge one. Again, with sleeves, I think you can kind of get away with it a little bit easier than with the body, especially because there are so many pattern changes that if you change the color at one of those, it might help it blend in a little bit better. So I'm not too worried about color matching. So next thing to do is to get onward with the sleeves and finish this thing up before fall. All right, it has been 5 days since I last recorded, and progress has been good. We have finished, or just about finished before I do my final checks for size, the first sleeve. So here we have, I did all the decreases and I'm on the last section before doing the rip for the end. And I stopped here and put these stitches on hold because I want to be sure that the sizing's good. So I had my husband try it on. And he liked the length, but it seemed like it was already pretty close to where he wanted it. So I'm definitely going to block before I do a final check and decide how long to do the ribbing and maybe even pull some of this section back. Before I do the blocking, I just decided to start the next sleeve. So we are a good section in on this one as well. So this whole sleeve took me 5 days to get to this point. I'm thinking this one might be even a little bit faster. It's been going really well. I know that lots of people on Ravelry commented on how they don't like the way the sleeve decreases go with the different patterns. I just chose not to really care about it too much. I didn't do anything particular or anything special, and this is kind of the result I got. So you can see in the ribbing section, it's just like kind of a rib combining. And then in the moss stitch section, you really can't see anything just because of the nature of moss stitch. And then in the cabled section, that's definitely where it's most noticeable. I really don't mind because it's going to be under an arm, and I think the rest of it just looks so good. That is really not something that I choose to care about, but if you want to be perfect, I'm sure you could figure out a way to make this perfectly beautiful. As for the amount of yarn I have left, I have this much of the cone and then this guy left, and I'm starting to think that I'll be okay. I always forget because you work on the whole body and the circumference is so wide that it takes so much yarn. You feel like you are definitely going to run out by the time you get to the sleeves, but their circumference on a sleeve is so much smaller that I think I'll make it. I think I'll be fine with just this. I think I'll have just the right amount of yarn, so no problems there. Yeah, I'm excited to get to the last little bit of this project and block it one more time to make sure the sizing's good and see how it goes. And it's finished. Okay. All right, here are my stats. Petite Knit Ingrid Sweater Man, 37 days. Here is my yarn left. Again, I started with 1 whole cone, 2 cakes. Here's the remaining yarn. So just about right. Our thoughts on the finish. We are unsure about the width of the collar. We're gonna wear it a little bit to see how it kind of conforms to our bodies because we'll kind of have to figure you out before it's comfortable. So we may, or I may decide to pull back this neck and redo it, maybe double the length, so it's more of a mock neck. But we're still deciding on that one. Our final ratings. So I'll say my husband's rating first. He really likes it. I could tell he's very excited. I think he's very happy that I finally knit him something. He's a big dude, so it was hard to do. My husband just keeps saying, cool fisherman sweater.
How much for that cool fisherman sweater?
Non-knitters don't know the difference between a fully beautifully cabled fisherman sweater and this much more simpler design. So if you ever want to make a man in your life or a non-knitter in your life a cool fisherman sweater, I would highly recommend this pattern. I find cabling to be pretty intimidating, but this had just the right amount of cabling, a little bit, just a sprinkle to give it that design element without it being all over cabling, nothing too challenging. So if you want to get into the world of cables, or your husband or boyfriend is asking you for a cable knit sweater, see if he wouldn't mind this, because it's way more fun to knit, and it really, honestly, it knit like a dream. So my rating as the knitter, I really enjoyed the pattern. I know a lot of people had some trouble with the decreases in the sleeves matching to pattern. I really don't mind those things too much, so that wasn't a concern for me. The sizing for my knitting and my gauge was really consistent to the pattern, so that made everything go really smoothly, so that was super enjoyable. I really would recommend this yarn as a budget option, especially because it's more rustic, so it really has a masculine feel to it. Again, this is Holst Garn Supersoft, and I held it double. I don't know if I would recommend the silver gray color. I like it, but I think I would have liked it more if it was a cream or like the almond colorway, maybe the oatmeal colorway. My husband and I kept saying while I was making it that when we would try it on, it really looked like chainmail given the color. There's something a little medieval about it, so I would maybe, if I knit this again, I think I would go for a cream or maybe a blue, maybe a color. I just think gray is maybe not the best way to make the shine, but I love gray. I'm very happy with the way it looks. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I would make it again. I don't know if I will, because I don't know who I would make it for. I might make one that fits me better, maybe get the original version for women and make myself a cream version, just because I really enjoyed the knitting process. And I think the finished result speaks for itself. It's a pretty cool sweater. It has a lot going on, but none of the individual parts were complicated. And it was very like potato chippy, because once you finished a section, it felt like a big win, and then you had more motivation to move on to the next section. So it really knit up like a dream. Again, it only took me 37 days, and probably 10 of those days were very lazy and I didn't knit very much. A sweater usually takes like a month and a half, so 37 days is a pretty fast sweater for me personally. Yeah, so that was my experience knitting Ingrid Sweater Man. I'm glad you followed my journey for this little knitting vlog on my project vlog, seeing it all come together. There is a slight bit of like pulling in the ribbing areas, but maybe I'll just keep tugging them and hopefully the wool will remember my preferences on that one. But yeah, that's my experience. So if you knit it in the past, please leave your experience in the comments. I'm especially curious if anyone was bothered by the sleeve decreases and what yarn other people chose. And if you want to knit it in the future and that's why you watched this video, let me know what you're excited for. I really, really loved the double knit or the double rib section, because that's my favorite stitch right now. I love a double rib. I might be the only person on earth who loves to knit ribbing, but somebody has to be that person. So leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you want me to do more things like this. So I hope you liked my project vlog. Thank you so much. Bye bye.